Hi, I'm Leslie Lowe. Welcome to Leslie's Lowedown on Life.
And welcome everybody to Leslie's Lowedown on Life. And I'll just start with Happy Mother's Day. And what better way to start with two incredible women, a great mother-daughter duo. I mean, unbelievable. You guys are like superstars in this area. So we've got the beautiful Molly Allen, which, gosh, I've known forever, and our incredible mother, Ellen Travolta. You guys, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for asking us.
Oh my gosh, it is such an honor. It really is.
Well, I'm very honored to be here with my daughter because I think she's tops.
You're right. She is tops.
Really the tops.
But I said a few minutes ago, apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Well, thank you.
So
I may sing something about you later.
like
I'm
that.
not sure
we
what,
would like that.
Well, you're the top. Anyway, thank you very much for having us
Well,
on.
thank you so much for being here. And I am as nervous meeting you as I was meeting your daughter years ago. Just because she was so spectacular, right? And she's such a huge presence.
And really a bad attitude. Not very nice.
So just awful.
It was really
yeah.
awful to meet
so
me.
Hard.
I think when I met you, I
So
said, and you
hard.
are, what do you, who are you? What do you do?
What are
No,
you doing
we've been
here?
friends.
Why are you in my space? But I was super nervous to meet Molly back in the day, just because she was so she was Molly Allen, and yeah, and now
I get it.
yeah, Ellen Travolta. I mean, you might know the name Travolta. Of course, we know that Uncle John is Molly's uncle, but he's your brother.
He's my baby brother.
He's
Yes.
your baby brother, and your big sister. You've got 4 siblings.
There are 6 of us.
Okay.
I'm the oldest, and Sammy, Margaret, Annie, Joey, and Johnny.
And how many are in the acting field?
Everyone is in the industry.
I love that.
You know, my brother Sammy did a lot of was location scout. He worked in the office with John, but he worked for John. One of the brother-in-laws, anyone that we're with for the most part is in the industry. First AD, it goes right from in front to behind the cameras.
But this started years ago when you guys were kids, because tell me if I read this right, but your
Okay.
mom was a huge theater buff, loved the theater, and really encouraged you guys to be a part of it.
My mother, I remember telling her that my friend Cedric was going to be a doctor. And she said, well, it's not as good as an actor. She was lovely. She wasn't current. She didn't realize, the difficulties of the business, but she was an actor in her own right in a small town. We lived in Englewood, New Jersey, which is right across the bridge from Manhattan. And my growing up was going to see her do plays.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
having the cast over. So I was indoctrinated very young into the theatrical world. But she had too many children to pursue it. And when she was growing up, it was frowned upon.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So, okay, you're from Jersey. Travolta, though, Italian, right?
Italian. Yes.
What part of Italy are you from?
Sicily.
I love that. My family's from Calabria.
Oh.
Yeah, so my maiden name is Scalise or Scalisi.
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 That's a
So,
good name.
Yeah, and they kind of settled in the Boston area and then kind of, filtered out from there. So Jersey, a lot of Italians in Jersey and New York. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, so tell me about what it was like growing up in the Travolta home, because, again, everybody's in the industry. So how did you all get there, and what drove you?
Well, I started when I was about a year and a half. My first memory, I was in a playpen and I was doing something, and everybody reacted. I do remember that, but all my life, I remember getting a lot of attention. I was an only child for 4 years. I was obnoxious. I was Ellen Marie, and I ran the house. All adults and me. And then came the babies. And I remember my mother told me the day Sammy came home from the hospital, I came home from school, and this thing was on a couch, picked him up by his feet, dangling, and said, what are we going to do about this? And Sammy has never been right.
He hasn't. I think
right.
maybe you did
Never
some
been right.
damage there. I don't know.
Never been quite the same. Anyway, my grandma lived, this is old school, the grandma's living with everybody, but My mother wanted me to be in show business. She really did.
Which is so rare because
Yeah.
you wanted anything but that for us.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was gonna be
I
one of my
think
questions.
naive.
Like,
I think ignorance was bliss. I think that it was a different time, first of all, than when we were kids. But the romantic part of it, she wanted that for you all. She didn't know about the business part.
Absolutely. I went to Carnegie Mellon, and went in my class, and I had a lot of people who went on to do great things. Nobody's parents wanted them there except mine.
Yeah.
And I was on a scholarship because we had no money. So I had to go have a scholarship to get there. So she was on her own track. She thought that show business and acting was, and I could sing and I could dance. I mean, I have so many stories about being young and being encouraged. But you know, it's interesting, and we can have another talk about this at another time, but it is sometimes when you are so encouraged and there's so much expectation put on you, you get a little afraid that you're going to let people down.
Yep, I understand that one.
So
yeah.
being the oldest, by the time Johnny came along, she didn't care anymore. No one had any expectation on Johnny, you know. Anyway, in our house, my mother read us plays at nighttime before we went to bed. We got plays. We went to see her in theater. My grandmother lived with us, so she had a lot of freedom. And all the kids, how we played was we made up stories, and we had shows all the time.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Were you one of the families that, because we used to do this, you set up the stage in the backyard with the, laundry line, and then you've got the sheets, and then you open the curtains and do the whole thing?
We had that, and we had my dad built in our basement, built an area that had a curtain come across. So it was like it wasn't a rise, but it was a curtain that opened up, and we all played dress up. We played plays, and everybody followed. So I was the first one. And when I got out of school, I started in New York. I'm going to make this brief because you want to go beyond. Anyway, I was the leader of the band. So when I was the first one to ever make money in the business. So I was on the road, and this is, 1961, Ethel Merman, Gypsy. I mean, I was doing shows, and my father thought I made more money. I think the most my father ever made was $125 a week. And if they changed tires, and the name of the business was Travolta Tire Exchange, and if they changed tires, you got money for doing that. And I think on the road I got $175. My father couldn't believe it. I sent money home for dancing lessons. I mean, I was a millionaire.
Yeah, you were the pride of the family.
I was a
yeah.
millionaire. And then it went on, and others followed, and I had different times of my life where I was theater, then I became in television, then back to theater.
And that was what I wanted to ask you, is like, so how did it all start for you? What was that first original gig that you got?
Oh,
On TV or in
yeah,
theater?
I guess.
I came out of Carnegie and I started working.
Yeah.
I did the role of Shalom Aleichem, which is way more
Which
fun
we love
to
when she
say.
says that.
I did.
Shalom Aleichem.
Yeah, it's better to say than to do, But the kids visited me. They came, and I did. I paid for their dancing lessons, their singing lessons. Sent money home for shoes, and little by little, they all fell into, and it was all theater, Johnny. Everybody started in the theater.
But you were with Ethel Merman.
61.
So that was one of the big, touring with Ethel Merman and Gypsy was
Yes.
a big deal.
Yes.
That is a big
That
deal.
was.
Yeah.
Going and doing a Broadway show. That was a big deal. Then I came back and did other shows. Everything was shows on the road, back home, travel, back again. And then I got married. And then later on, when my marriage ended, I went into television. My agent had moved to LA, and I came in the heyday of sitcom. They wanted people with theater experience. And I hadn't worked in, when you kids were little, it was 10 years. I went back a few times and did
Funky
shows.
Flipper. So
yeah.
we're missing a big part of
I
this.
don't
Fill in
want
the
this to be
blanks
all
here,
about
Molly.
me.
No,
Molly.
it's going to be about you, but also funny about you. So when we lived in Chicago when I was little, and then my dad went on a photo shoot to Wyoming and decided he wanted to be a cowboy. Yeah. So mom was an actress, and he's running a nightclub, all this stuff. He's a high fashion photographer. We moved to the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. Well, she adapts. She's now going to direct and produce the pageant, the local pageant, right?
For the Miss America
For the-
contest.
for the
Miss Weston County. Yeah.
So in Wyoming. And then we moved to Palm Springs, sort of a happy medium because my grandparents had property there. My dad could do ranching and photography. And then you did Funky Flippers. Weren't you a witch in a commercial?
Yeah.
That aired a lot. It's
Yeah.
Palm Springs. It's going to air a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were all in a Super Savers commercial
Right.
that they filmed on our ranch.
Yeah.
So you did little things
I did.
before we went to LA.
But my favorite thing was about Desert Hot Springs.
Oh,
I got
right.
$50 a week, and I had gutsy. I did a lot of. I'd go to the corner bar downtown in Desert Hot Springs, and with a microphone and a camera, and all of a sudden I'd see some guy, and I thought, well, wait a minute, he's not married to her. I know them. I know them from PTA. And I thought we can't air this because this is going to ruin a family.
You had your own soap opera
So I had to be
going.
very careful. Then I did an interview at the post office. So boring. What do you ask? And I did it
But you
somehow.
did it.
But I
your
always
foot in.
created.
Yes.
If I was somewhere where there wasn't, anything to do, I made it up. I just started it. I just
So
do it.
You were a creator before there were creators.
Yes.
you
Yes.
started this whole
Yeah.
thing.
Thanks, Molly, for the fill-in. You did.
Sure.
Yeah, that was good. Well, I was wondering, was it a jump from Jersey to New York to LA? But no, there's a big chunk in between.
It was a
There's
big
Wyoming
chunk.
and Palm Springs in between.
Wyoming
Yeah,
and Palm
that's
Springs
Chicago.
and
Yeah,
Chicago.
I got married at 24 or 25 and divorced at 37, I think. And that's when my television career, everything before then was theater. And I would get calls from people. I went to Muni Opera and places that they had worked with me years before. And then they'd call and say, can you come back? So I would do it. Maybe it was 10 years before, and I'd go back and I'd do the show because I was in that age range where it didn't matter, 25, 35.
Right.
Everybody looked the same. So then, but then when my marriage broke up, that's when we went to LA, and my wonderful agent, who has now passed, Marty Gage, was the best agent. He was in New York, LA, London. So when he moved to LA, and I was then, he right away, and it was just, I never stopped because I was a new face.
Well, let's
at
talk about that
37.
because Happy Days, Joni Loves Chachi, right? Charles in Charge.
Right. But they were always.
Grease.
Yeah, those were, but we started, I did a lot, other ones like, what was the one?
One day at a time.
One day at a
No,
time.
those were guest shots. What was the other series?
Making
that-
It.
Making It. Do you remember that? Making
Number
It.
Yes.
86 or number 64.
Number 96.
Number 90.
It's like-
She would get pilots, and it would be, especially around Christmas time, I think this one's going to go. And it was like, it's going to be a big Christmas. And then they get the call, it's canceled. Damn it.
I used to always say to Marty, I say, Martin, everyone is talking about it. It's so good. And he said, Booby, when they call and they pick it up, that's when it's good.
Yeah.
That's when it's a go.
That's when you celebrate.
That's when you celebrate.
So how did you juggle? Like, how did you do the balancing act? Because it is a balancing act. So I want to know from both of you, like, how was that being a mom and balancing, doing all of the shows and going to, did you have to audition or did they
Oh,
just?
no.
No.
Oh, I had
because
to audition
Yeah.
and test.
Oh, yeah.
But I did it while they went to school.
Okay.
It didn't,
Because-
especially when you were doing sitcoms. It was almost our schedule. So we had, like, when we were too young to stay home alone, we had somebody who would meet us after school and spend like 2 hours with us. And on a tape night, somebody would stay with us or we'd go to the taping. But it was really similar. It wasn't like when somebody does an hour-long show where they have 12 or 14-hour days. It was really, it never felt like you were gone that much.
I would be home at 4:00.
Yeah.
4:30.
Yeah.
Except on tape day.
Which is so nice.
Yeah.
It's the best, in my opinion, it's the best of all worlds.
All of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Of film. If you do a low budget film, at least it moves along quickly. If you did a big film like Johnny's big films, oh man, you do it 2 pages a day.
Yeah.
When you soap opera, you do 40 pages. I mean, you're moving along.
Yeah.
You really are. So but I love sitcom because you had a live audience. They let you know what was funny. They led you in the right direction. And I just love that. Of course, I would keep going when they'd say cut, stage. You keep going.
Yeah.
You don't stop it. You do it. So I At first they say, Ellen, you're off. You're not. It's finished.
We said cut.
We said cut.
The audience is still seeing me.
They're still here.
So I got more to do
Well,
over here.
Yeah,
Right. They're
with a
still
live
here.
audience, you would feel like you're
yeah.
just doing
Well, I'm
theater.
coming from
So,
theater, yeah.
You got to fill the spaces. You don't want
Yes.
any, silent spaces out there. So you
Right.
got to keep it going. So what was it like having Ellen Travolta as your mom?
It was fabulous. It was, well, it was, I mean, it's your mom. So you don't look at him like, I don't think of her as an actress. She was just our mom, and she was fun. So it was always an adventure. And even if a show was getting canceled or whatever, it was always fun. Now, having other people, how they thought about it being my mom, it was challenging to have John Travolta and Ellen Travolta, and then my brother Tom, who was the cutest kid in school and also an actor. All of that, and then you're this chunky little pimple-faced girl trying to make friends, and you're thinking, do they really want to be my friend, or do they want to? So I sort of glommed onto my best friend, and then we were there all the time. And my mom was our mom, and she was hilarious and would make us laugh so hard. I gravitated to my family because school was a tricky to navigate. When we moved to LA, especially our second house, everybody already knew, and John was a giant star at the time. He was at the top of his career. And it was really difficult to navigate. And mom was on TV. So having a famous family in general is tricky, but the rewards way outweigh the downside of it, because you pick your close friends and then you just hang out with your great family all the time. And so we did. So mom made everything fun. It was fun. Everything was fun.
Yeah, I didn't have babies to have to deal with. I mean, I didn't work when my kids were little. What were you, 9 and Tom was 12?
Yeah.
So they were, they weren't alone. They weren't left alone. I had to have someone there, but it wasn't like having a nanny. I never had a nanny or a person that took care of them.
You were always mom.
I was always.
Yeah.
I was
We had
there
a couple
for that.
people we tormented and they left crying, but mostly
Don't we all do that?
mostly they no, I can't do it.
I can't.
Yeah, but tell Leslie,
Yes.
and I always loved this because I was a single woman then for a while till I met Jack. But even after Jack, they tell them about how much what you thought of my brothers and sisters.
Oh, what I thought of me? What do you mean? That they were
How much your memories of.
Oh my!
Your
Well, our
aunts and
family.
uncles,
Well,
yeah.
everybody kind of migrated to LA. So growing up, we had a lot of time with our aunts and uncles, and I'd spend summers with my aunt and uncle Margaret and Jim in Chicago, and then Johnny was like he didn't have his own kids, and he was so close to mom that when he was in LA, he was at our house a lot, and so he practiced on us before he had his own kids, and so we were all very, very close. But the laughter, nobody asked me about grades ever. It was, so what does your teacher sound like? So can you do a good imitation of your teacher? Is that good? And then friends and everybody. So that was really our currency, was could we make our family laugh? Not how are your grades? I don't think anybody in our family ever asked me how school was going.
No, they
ever.
probably didn't. Which is, I have a little shame on that a little bit.
It worked out
Because I
fine.
never, and all of our friends were in the business. Everybody, remember Tom said, don't you know like a dentist, anyone that isn't? Well, they've played dentist, Tom. But
That's close enough. They
That
played a
is,
dentist.
That was the other thing, is that, so I wasn't interested in the film industry at all. And partly not because like mom and Jack Bannon, stepfather extraordinaire, the late great, they were very not show busy. Mom was working because she needed to work. It wasn't about, it was like, what do I know how to do? I got to support my kids. I'm just going to go to work. It was never a career that like she had to sit and talk and, I was at this call and this call. It was, yeah, I went to the call anyway. What's for dinner? Who's having a birthday? You want to go to the mall? It was that was a secondary thing for her. But they'd have friends over, and I am not kidding you. I would be like, if they don't stop talking about themselves and their careers, I am going to scream. And it was all that very inside Hollywood. Yeah, I had a call back and this and that and dropping names. And I'd be like, and I'd walk out of the room. But nobody, even John,
none
of us are like that. No, the whole family,
very
nobody's
down to
show
earth,
busy.
very
Right.
very down to earth, and yeah, Johnny is an exceptional. He's when you meet him, you expect movie stars to have a certain facade. He doesn't have one. He's just hi, and he's right there, and you think that there's no one else in the world but him and you. He makes you feel that way. He's he's disarmingly simple,
He's good
down
at
to
being a
earth.
movie star. And also, he'll know more about you after your encounter than you learned about him because
Yeah.
he'll really want to know. He's like
Yeah.
definitely interested in, he'd say, "Oh, so you're Italian too? Now, what kind of food do you like?" I mean, like he instantly would just, that's
Yeah.
how he
Yeah,
does.
that's what he's like, and everybody. We've just been together over the holidays. We all went to Florida, the brothers and sisters, and our children and their partners. And then we went on another adventure that I don't know. Are we talking about that yet? We're not
I don't
talking
know if we're
about
talking.
that.
It's a
Oh, but
family
by the
project.
time this is aired,
Oh,
I'm just gonna.
We
I
have
gotta-
a family project that's very
We worked
exciting.
on a family-
we talked about it on our show. We talked about it the whole time we were gone.
Oh, that's right.
oh, we did. Yeah.
forgot.
Wait,
We- yeah.
when I was with Dave,
Yeah.
we were
We
talking
called
to you
in
guys
from
in
the
the
hotel.
hotel.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
of course, that's right. You do know
we
about
can
that,
talk
yeah.
about it. Spill,
But the thing that
spill the tea.
that is, I just want to say this about it. That he wrote a book 30 years ago called One Way Night Propeller, correct?
John did? Okay.
About his life through an 8-year-old's eyes, traveling. I'm not going to say any more than that about it. We are all in it. He wrote it. He now, 30 years later, he wrote the screenplay. He wrote it, produced it, and directed it.
Wow.
And it was
It's so fun.
quite an experience.
And it was a family affair,
And we
Yes.
were at the TWA hotel.
which is so cool.
And it was like, let's have a drink. I mean, I got one more scene. Okay, when you're finished.
Go,
It was
come and
so
have a
great.
drink.
It was,
Yeah, come and
it
have a
was
drink.
so
That.
fun to go and like I was sitting in the van watching. She had to do a scene in a car, an old car, 50s car, was it
57.
57. Her driving questionable. We have concerns. I know. And you say that nothing. We have
You
concerns.
say
say
my
body of work. I say
She
I've
thinks I
seen-
left accidents behind me.
I've seen things. Let me just say. And when you drive behind her, it's harrowing, and it's 45 on the highway, 60 through the neighborhood. It's like bizarro time. So, but anyway, my brother and I tease her a lot. And so now she's driving this vintage car, and the owner guy, and John's in a van watching on the screen, and I'm in the van with him watching him give directions. Now, so when I leave to go get a drink because it's late and it's cold and she's shooting. I find out afterwards she had to drive the thing. Well, nobody consulted us on this. And she said, "Don't tell my kids I'm doing
don't
this."
tell them. Don't tell Molly and Tom I'm driving. I'm going to be good. You pushed it into gear rather than foot gear. But I learned on a truck. I know how to drive anything. But being directed over, it was very funny because the guy whose car it was, and now we're pushing, in my ear, we're pushing the button in, we're letting the foot off the gas, and now onto the brake. Not once, but and we were it's just pulling up to and parking the car, but they didn't think I'd ever have to drive it. And when I did, everybody panicked a little bit.
How'd you do though?
I did great.
Okay.
We did it
Well,
really
and the thing-
quickly.
the thing weird. So our whole family's at the TWA hotel, which is really a place you spend the night. And I'm obsessed with it. I went on purpose. It was a bucket list thing years ago. But now we're there for 4 or 5 nights, and you can't go anywhere really. I mean, to get into the city from JFK is a lot, and there's nothing around there, so we're just kind of there. But it became so much fun because you're going to the gym. You say, "Hey, Joey. Hey, Wendy. Hey, okay, yeah, we'll meet you at dinner. Are you going to Tommy? Are you going to have dinner? What are we going to do?" And it was like it became our place,
Our
and there's
home.
this round bar in the center, and then a beautiful restaurant. So at the end of the days, we would show up, but we're there all these times. Well, her scene doesn't happen until the last night.
shot
We
of the
have
day.
a 9 a.m. flight the next day, and it's cold, and she's out there in this thing, and it was just the way it happened. But I felt bad because we were all done. Everybody else had
You're
done
all
everything.
around the bar.
And
Yeah, we're all around the bar.
bar.
She's out in the cold with a 57. So
And, I mean, for me, at my age, to have the last shot of the day.
yeah, it's
I
hard.
mean, they say 9. Well, it's 9:30.
Yeah.
It was, but it was a tiny scene. And it was fine in the car and cold, but it was fun. But I looked, and there were a bunch of people having like ice cream in that area, and then there was some. Then there was a bar there and another restaurant there. It's quite a place.
Oh,
It
have you been to the
amazing.
TWA
I
hotel?
have not.
Oh,
But
it's-
after you talking about it, I did all the searching of
Yes.
it. It looks amazing.
It's really fun. And then the pool is a hot tub. It's a hot pool.
Yeah, up on
And then you can watch the airplanes. We did
That's
that one day. We
awesome.
watched the airplanes land. And we
From
could
the
have, you could
pool.
eat up there and everything too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And,
Okay,
and in
bucket
our
list.
room too, it's floor to ceiling glass and quiet. So I just sat there watching airplanes all day, and then you take the shades down at night, and then of course because otherwise people can see in. But
And then it's the Connie, right? The Constellation.
Mhm.
There's a Constellation outside of the hotel that you go for cocktails. Warning, if you go there for cocktails. I was with a friend. And I looked to the girl and I said, well, how many shots do you put in a cocktail? She said, one. And my friend said, I want a double. I said, well, I do too. $100
Oh,
for 2 drinks.
oh. I thought you were going to
Yeah.
say they make them strong, but
No.
they
No,
make
usually
them
there's
expensive.
usually there's 2 shots in a drink.
Right.
I know about drinking.
and then she taught me.
And then
One
I
thing our
taught
family has
her.
handed down very well. She used to say she was going to send me to drinking school because I wasn't really a drinker. So send me to drinking school. It took. It was one
Yeah.
schooling that took.
It took.
But we know our cocktails. But see, then I would have the old fashions, and they were $18, which was more manageable.
But
still,
That was like
100
$100
Yeah.
bucks for 2
Bucks
drinks.
for 2 drinks.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the heads up on that
so
one.
But that, and it wasn't any, I guess inside you get the same, but I remember, I will never forget that because it was,
So expensive.
well, where were we in France? We were the
Cannes
Film Festival.
at the Hotel de Cap. You
And
know
I-
the famous Hotel de
Yes,
Cap.
Yeah. And I said to Molly, before John, because he takes care of everything, I said, I'm going to buy you a drink right now. And you said, well, we had champagne.
We had
right?
Bellinis.
Bellini or whatever it was.
Yeah.
$90 for 2.
Ooh.
I said, and that will be the end.
I said, on second thought, John can cover it.
Yes.
It'll be fine.
I hope you enjoyed your 1 drink.
Yeah.
and
But
now
make
we'll
that
wait for Uncle
last.
John.
We
Make
went to
it
the
last.
store. Went to the local store. We asked the driver, like, could you take us to a little store? We bought some wine and stuff to put in our
Oh.
$1,000. It was probably $2,000 a night room. I don't know. It's that famous
Yeah.
place, then
Right.
But no matter what people, I think you go back to your whatever you were raised,
Uh-huh.
and we didn't have anything. I always think, as a wage earner, I always think of my daddy's pocketbook. It just, that's how I think. So all I can think, Daddy could never afford this.
He'd work
How
all
would he
week
pay
for
for
2
it?
martinis.
Yeah, my gosh, that's his whole salary for a week. He's only got $25 left.
Which is
What's he gonna
good.
do?
I mean, it's good that you think that way. I always think it is because
I think
otherwise
it
you're
is
so
too.
excessive and
Yeah, don't have expectations on other people's pocketbooks and
right.
take them places or share. I just think it's a good thing to be aware of.
Yes.
You know?
I want to know how exciting it was though to watch your family work. Like you've got a part, your daughter has a part, your son has a part, your sisters, your
Annie was
brothers.
the
I
hot
mean,
dog girl.
Dirty Annie. Were you on the
Dirty
day
Annie?
that Dirty Annie was on? No, we called it another
No.
day. I can't
She's
remember.
got
It
to
was-
get
I
back
heard
on,
about
Molly.
Dirty
She's
Annie.
holding her
Yeah.
breath back in Florida.
Oh,
you know.
well, we're going to put her back on. Maybe when Dave's out of town, I'll get
That's
the
a
whole
good
family
idea.
on.
That's a good idea.
you should do a family show.
We should do a family
100%,
show.
yes.
Well, and our family is so hilarious.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Joey and his wife Wendy. Everybody
They're
is
all
very funny.
everyone's
But
very
my
funny.
brother and I are doing our scene, and it was with the main people, and we play ticket takers, and I have one line. I think I did it for you. Oh, so you're an actress. Nailed it.
Nailed
and then
it.
Tommy says, "Good luck in Hollywood." So that's our whole thing. You would have thought. With John and my mom, the way they were watching and glowing and feeling that we were doing, some sort of Broadway production of Hamlet or something that, was like the pride. And that's our family. If we got out of bed the right way, there was a minor celebration.
Yeah.
Just because we were so wonderful. That's
But
how our family is.
But as someone said, and it is very true, this was documentary-ish in that so many of us, there's only a couple of people in the family that were never in the industry or never performed that were in it.
Right.
But it came extras. I think in that whole cast, there are 2 people. He had to pick them up in Kansas City. Picked up an actor who played a pilot and a woman actress who played a stewardess. Other than that, extras holding the bags, passing the. So if we screen that, it'll be we'll
Yeah.
never hear the show.
It's a family
There's so
reunion.
but it was such a it was compelling in that it was now documented, and that all the members of our family at this time are participating in this to help and support John.
And I
in
think
his
he
dream.
said we all did a good job too. And that was what he was happy with. First of all, we were all nice. And everybody on the set said this is the nicest set we've ever worked on because we're all family and none of us are going to be a-holes.
No,
Right.
And
no,
he
no
starts-
divas.
No, and he sets the tone, which is humble and kind and professional and prepared and all of that and fun and light. And so that trickled all the way down. His daughter is in it too.
And his
Her
daughter's
friend,
boyfriend.
yeah, everybody is in it.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody. But he set that tone so we could really relax and have fun. And then he was so he was so proud of us and so good at telling us all, which
Yeah.
it's kind of scary. It's intimidating. I don't do film stuff usually, it's a big responsibility.
It is a
So it
big
was
responsibility, but he certainly, and I've done lots of films, lots of television over the years, and whoever is in charge, the rest of the cast takes the tone from them. If he's a jerk, you're going to find a lot of jerks.
I could see that.
Mean or testy
Mm.
or that, have fits and everything, it'll just pass right
It
down.
does. It kind of feeds off.
And everybody
of each
becomes
other.
a jerk.
I
Yeah.
think that's it with any workplace. That's
I
why
agree.
True.
Dave
That
and I
is
love
true.
being in this
Mhm.
building so much because it trickles down. Everybody who works here it trickles down. And they're all happy and kind, and it is like a family.
It's
and
like
we
a family.
feel that
Mhm.
energy.
Yeah.
It's a nice.
It makes a huge difference.
So this had to start like from your parents then, because that's a learned trait to treat people with respect and to be humble, especially to be where you guys are. And I say all of you as a family, what an incredible empire you guys have built. So that started from the base right there.
Well, I think that is true, but one never knows how fame will how you'll react to it. John was a baby. He was 22.
Yeah.
22 when he did Cotter, and then 23 Grease or 25. I mean, he was under 25 years old, and at that point, the biggest star in the world.
How did that feel when John exploded the way he did? How'd that feel?
Being
Being his big sister.
It came, and here was the thing. I remember it was Saturday Night Fever. It was that summer, and we were going to go see it, and I had heard the music on the radio and didn't put it together at all. Not at all. I said, well, I know these songs. I said, I've heard them together, didn't realize. Then his nomination for an Academy Award, but Grease blew it out of the water because then you had kids. I was just so proud of him. He was my little brother. But, at some point, if there's ever a documentary done, I don't know how the boys felt. They loved him, but I don't know. That's a different thing. He was the baby.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know how I
Yeah.
felt being the oldest girl, but what if I, wasn't?
What if your
and,
baby sister
my
had
baby
become a
sister
giant star?
became a John Travolta? I don't know where. Well, it depends on where you are in life, how you feel about what you're doing with your life. All those things come into play with how you'll react. But I'm very protective of him, but incredibly proud. But really, it's just kind of.
Kinda
Gotta say
happened,
this.
right?
What?
It just kind of happened.
It
It's like
happened.
you can't remember before.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I don't remember before, but also he was. I'm not going to say geeky because that's not the.
I
that's not-
called him cool adjacent.
Cool adjacent.
That's what my friend Stacy and I would tease him. He goes, "You guys were so mean," and I said, "Well, here was cool. You're right
there.
No,
You're right there.
close.
No, he
My
was-
brother
he was
Joey
sweet.
was cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joey
Yeah.
was whoa.
Slick.
He strut and he did.
Yeah.
Somebody just wandered in. But wow, when you saw him on screen,
Oh my God, magic.
God! I thought, wow,
He had that thing.
he had that thing. He had
Yeah.
Cotter was funny in the bit, but when he did Saturday Night Fever and holy cow!
Did you know he could dance like that?
Who paid for the lessons?
Oh, well, there we go. That's
Hello.
right. You did.
Also,
Every move.
Also,
Yeah.
her best investment ever. She bought him his first airplane ticket ever. How much was it?
$25 round trip from Newark to Philly, 20-minute flight. Flew there, had a hot dog, and flew back. However, when he goes all around the world talking about aviation, he tells that story.
He tells that story.
Because I was the first one to give him, well, this is cute. You don't know this, so I'll tell you this. Molly knows it. He was 3 years old when I got on a plane to go to Pittsburgh to audition for Carnegie Mellon. And when I came back, I gave him the airplanes had a little, what do you call it?
Leslie used to be a flight attendant. She knows.
you know,
She used to have the tickets.
the tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The card
When I
printing
came
thing, yeah.
home, I gave him you always had the receipt.
so
kind of thing.
he kept it.
He kept it. Anyone in the family knew that flew, they gave those to John.
Oh, that's awesome.
And as he grew up, my mother would take him downtown to the travel agency, and they'd give him the where they weren't prominent anymore, big thick books where you made your flights from. So he had all his tickets, and he had this book, and he would make flights up and do all of this. So I was just coming home from Gypsy. It was 1961. And I thought, it's time John had a real trip. So I said, I'm going to buy him a ticket, and we're going to go. So I did.
That's so
I think it was $25 for both of us. Anyway, when he opened it, I could tell he thought it was another one of the. He said, "Oh, thanks." I said, "We're going." His little face. Oh my God! So the winter, January 1962, we got on a plane and flew to Philadelphia, and then flew back. But the thing he mentioned, then I didn't realize it. Well, at that time, he said when that happened, it meant everything was possible. It was tangible. That he could fly. That he could be a pilot. That he could do anything that he wanted to do.
Look what you
So,
did.
you know,
that's amazing.
That was and you know what? This is my closing line. He flies us all over the world. That trip cost me $25. It was the best $25 investment I ever made.
Heck yes. And you guys all love to fly.
Oh,
and to
she's
travel.
number one, though.
Yeah.
She's his best plane friend.
Yeah, I had all the schedules at home too. Sometimes we just talk on the phone. I'd say, well, we could go if we wanted to go to New York here. Okay, TWA, if we wanted to go to New York, how would we go? I had all the schedules as well. But when she was working so much and he wanted us to travel, he wasn't married, he didn't have kids. He would call and ask for me or from my brother and myself. And so, because she couldn't go, she was working. And so she'd send us. And so I spent hours and hours and hours on airplanes with him. Back when he had smaller planes, you had to land every 3 hours to get fuel, and everything in between. And then he named an airplane after me.
You have your own airplane?
Not anymore. It was the Molly Clipper for a while. It was the Hawker Siddeley. It was a really beautiful plane. I loved the very 80s colors in it. It was like, the cream blue kind of colors. But when I met Lisa Marie Presley, I thought it would be fun to tell her that story because her father named a plane after her, and that's why John did it for me. And then when I told her that, she didn't think that was interesting or funny, and she kind of blew me off. And it was witnessed by Scarlett Johansson, who went, "How'd that work out for you?"
Anyway,
Scarlett, talk about
I
someone.
love Scarlett Johansson.
First
She's
time I met
great.
her,
Yeah.
they were doing a film, and I said, "Hi," I said, "I've heard so much about you," and she said, "I haven't heard anything about you, not a word." And it just took me so aback.
She's so funny.
She's got a great sense. She's very silly. I've heard about Margaret, that's my sister, but not a word about you.
well, that's fantastic.
She said, "I heard I was going to love you." I'm not so sure.
I don't know.
She goes, "I don't know yet." But she did witness me tell that story too. And it was so awkward. And she just was laughing. She was watching from afar.
Lisa Marie is an acquired taste, I think.
She was. And Johnny adored her though. I mean, they were friends.
They were very good friends.
But yeah, that was one of he had a birthday party. It was his 50th birthday party that Kelly threw for him. And there were more celebrities than there were us. It was at a place in Cabo, the one and only Pamia.
An opening.
Everywhere you turned, while we were waiting for John, it was Dan Aykroyd and Robin Williams who were entertaining us in the courtyard while we were waiting. Oprah, Barbara Streisand, Natalie Cole, Tom Cruise, Sylvester Stallone, Robin Wright, and Sean Penn, everywhere you turn. And then they were like
Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
Does that
all
just
at the
feel
same-
surreal to you?
Bizarro.
Or was it just like, it was just
Bizarro,
part of
kinda.
your world?
But once you start talking to them, it all just seems fine. But, like and Johnny's so great too, because I really wanted to meet Tom Cruise because I love Top Gun. And he made it a point. He said, and he did, now this is my niece. And then it was like underwhelming.
He was sweet. Tom
He
Cruise was very sweet.
he was nice. But no, then what? It's like, well, I made this big deal. Now what? And I smiled and he smiled and Johnny said, okay. Okay, bye.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you for that.
But some people are just more comfortable than others.
Yeah.
Barbara Streisand, the night of that party, she sang Happy Birthday. Do you remember like Marilyn Monroe sang it years ago? So I went over and I said, I said, it was lovely. You sounded, I was off key. I don't know. It didn't sound right to me. I just felt so odd. It didn't.
And you were like,
An
but
hour
wait.
later, I met her again. I said, "I'm not kidding about that. I wasn't in good voice. I don't know what it was, but I wasn't doing it the way I wanted it to do." She would not accept it. She would not take that compliment.
She wouldn't do it. She was self-critical of herself, which is
Yeah.
amazing to me because you would think,
Yeah.
that
Some people
she
are
would-
terribly insecure.
yeah,
Someone asked me about. I have a story about my mother that I loved because I told you we didn't have very much money, and I was in junior high and I wanted a new dress to wear to a dance, and I said, "Mom, do you think I could have a new dress just with your personality? You don't need one." She said, "You just put a little flower here, you dress it up, you dress it down." I believed that. No one ever said that to Jane Fonda.
wow.
She never was encouraged. All of her face work, everything was
Hmm.
out of self-doubt. She would tell you that if she was sitting here.
That's, I mean, I can
Never
I
was
can
pretty
see
enough.
that.
Never
Yeah.
was in good shape enough.
Always
Wow.
had to do more, had to do
Always.
more, had to do
Always.
more.
Mhm.
It's so interesting when you really step back and look at that because you think that Jane Fonda is Jane Fonda, has everything in the world, beautiful, but then she has self-doubt like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, and that's an addiction. Because she wished that she could just have gracefully gotten older,
Yeah,
but it wasn't. It just made her too miserable.
it was too hard. It was too much to
hard.
handle.
She couldn't handle it.
That was her identity.
Yeah.
Was how she looked. Everything was about that.
Yeah.
You guys have the most beautiful relationship. Has it always been like this?
I would say between 10 and a half and 12, it was iffy. And then between like 19, 20, 21, it was when I was making my worst boy decisions. There was a point when but mostly, yes. Mostly it's
Yeah.
been great. But you test boundaries and stuff. but-
Absolutely, and I don't think there's ever a point with I don't know, with a teenage girl or teen that you don't kind of question choices a little bit.
Well,
That's that. I
What's
think
being
that
a teenager about, I mean, you got to
Yeah.
make bad decisions.
Yeah, but no, I
do.
think we've. I'm glad that I remember one day Molly said to me, "I'm so glad you didn't die when I was 19. I don't like you that much."
It would have been a shame. I would have missed all these great years.
Right.
And all
It
the
is
gifts.
true. Oh, and all the
All
gifts.
the gifts.
That was the thing. It was she would want
Good
me
mom.
to stay home from school. She'd say, "You have to go to school today," if she wasn't working. And I'd say, "Well, I don't know." And she'd say, "We'll go to the mall, buy you a treat." And so I would just miss school.
You're like, I'll
Unless
stay
it was
with
really
my mom.
important. I got to stay home for Luke and Laura's wedding,
Yeah.
Oh,
which
of
we didn't know
course.
enough about
Yes.
soap operas then to know that they were going to hold the Friday over to Monday. There was no way that so then I had to stay home Monday too. We didn't have recorders back then.
It was a long weekend of being sick.
Yeah, I was
Right?
very ill.
Yeah.
It was unconventional, but we've always had fun. And then when I was younger, when Stacy and I were my best friend, I really didn't have a lot of friends, but I had really good close friends, and we were at the house all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we hung out. That we wanted to be with Mom and Jack, and then she would say, "I love you girls, but I'm not taking you to the mall today." And then we'd say, "Well, isn't that cute? You tried to say no. You heard yourself say no, and you practiced that.
Yes.
And now can we just please go to the
Can
mall?"
we go?
And then she'd go get her keys, and we go.
Good for you.
Yeah,
you did
no
a good
was a
job.
word. I remember the first time I said no to Molly, and she said, "You're kidding." You just wanted to hear yourself say that, right?
You did
We all
good, Mom.
congratulated her on
Congratulate,
it.
good for you.
Good job.
What is
Yeah.
the most important lesson you've learned from your mom? What is the best thing that you've learned from your mom?
Gosh. I don't listen to her very often. It's hard to say. She calls me impetuous because I do whatever I want all the time. I'd say being positive, keep going. I think my mom and I are machines. I think that we keep plowing through. And it's not, our life is not without trauma or drama, not trauma, drama and, challenging people around us. But I think for the most part, the two of us, we just keep moving. We talk to each other. We complain to each other. We talk about it. And then we just keep going. And I learned that lesson. First, I learned I was always going to support myself. And even though I've been married 3 times, you'd think I would have married to be supported, but I supported them. No, I didn't. But I mean, I always knew I was going to support myself. That was a really important thing. I never thought of that somebody else would take care of me. So to be independent. And you've taught me good money skills. I mean, I think investing and stuff like that. And then just, I just think moving forward, we don't dwell on a lot. We forgive and forget. We don't hold grudges. Never. I mean, we say I'm telling them this and this. And then, they did come back and apologize. So it's okay. So we're very quick to, which I think is healthy, actually. We can get taken advantage of, but I think it's better. It's healthier.
Yeah. I think we're both humanitarians, well, obviously, with your 501c3 and everything that you do. I think it's important to think about community and what you do and the support system that helps you get done what you need to get done.
Yeah. With that said, you moved to Coeur d'Alene. You moved to Coeur d'Alene was it the 90s?
Yes.
And
I came in 89.
Okay. What brought you to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
It was the Baldwin brothers.
The Baldwin brothers.
Yeah.
I was doing Charles in Charge, and Daniel guested on a Thursday. We used to tape on Thursday nights. And he came and he said, I just came back from the most beautiful place. His father had taken a $99.99 bus trip across the United States. When he came through Coeur d'Alene, he went home to New York. He was a professor at a Long Island college. He said, when I die, I want to be buried there. And he died a young man. But they had to get their schedule so they could all be here. And they had just come back. And I said, we should go. We went the next week was a hiatus week. We went up there. We fell in love with it. And then we planned to move there in 89, 90. We never moved there till 94.
And my brother and I had already moved up here and left.
Okay.
And left.
In the
because
meantime,
they told us about it. And then, so we came up and bought places. But then Tommy moved back to LA and I moved to Florida and then on to Tennessee and then back to LA for a while. But yeah, we were already gone.
Yeah, they came up.
back.
They came to visit us. And then they both ended up thinking we were going to sell our house right away, excuse me, and be there. But we weren't. So
There was a
we
big
moved up
earthquake
and they were gone.
Meantime.
Yeah, the big earthquake and
Yeah.
everything.
Which one was that?
94.
Okay. Yes.
The earthquake was in 94?
Yeah, January of 94. I just started General
right.
Hospital.
And I was living in Florida. Yep. I missed the San Francisco earthquake by a year and I missed that one by a couple of years. I'm watching the Baldwins. It's with everything that happened to Daniel Baldwin. I mean to Alec Baldwin.
Right.
Well,
right.
in the whole thing, he was filming a documentary while he's about to go to trial and all of that stuff. But he mentions his dad and he mentions his family, and I'm wondering if it's going to come up, the Coeur d'Alene connection. It doesn't sound like he had a very happy upbringing. It sounded like he wanted to create
Interesting.
home because he said his home. He made some kind of reference that it wasn't a happy home.
Wow, and I
Yeah.
thought the opposite. It was one girl, 4 boys, Stephen, Daniel, Alec, and
I don't remember the other
one more and a girl. Isn't that funny? I got the impression only from
Maybe
knowing,
it was just his
knowing Dan. I don't know
experience.
that was that they were together, but you don't know till someone decides to, to say that. Huh.
What a happy little thing that somebody just mentions.
I
isn't that
know,
funny?
mentions
That-
a place and says it's gorgeous. So you try it out, and,
Yeah,
and
it's
here you
wonderful.
are.
And then Dennis Franz was up here a little after us at the same. And I said, Dennis, how did you? He said, well, Daniel Baldwin. I said, you're kidding. I said, damn it, Daniel Baldwin should be a realtor.
Yeah,
for
he
crying out
should
loud,
be. He should be part owner of like Coeur d'Alene Resorts and
no
all
kidding.
of that. And you've been here ever since. And
We kept a house down there, and I commuted. In fact, we had Santa Barbara too, didn't we, when we moved up? I don't remember now. But we did keep a home there so we could commute back and forth. And
Yeah,
did
because
that.
you're still working. So you're
I was
going
still
back
working,
and forth.
but I wasn't. I did that, and I did a few things, but then I started to do theater. And
Coeur
I
d'Alene
did
Summer
theater again,
Theater.
and that was fun. And I go back and do a little something. But I really enjoyed doing theater.
And-
Again, it
and
was
you
fun
guys-
for both Jack and I.
Yes. And I believe that I saw you and Jack in Hello, Dolly.
Yes, you did.
Yes. And
No,
it's
which time? Did you do it twice or no?
Yeah, the first time was 62 or no,
62.
60, 90, no, 99 or 98 or 2000, and then
it was a little later than
2013.
that.
So
Okay,
that was the one that I was in
yes.
too.
Okay.
And I played
yes.
Jack's love interest.
Yes. Yes.
Remember
oh my
I played
gosh.
the girl
Oh,
you
right.
set up with. What's it? I
Right.
wore the fat suit.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
so fun doing that. I'll
Yeah.
tell the story about being on stage with almost every show I ever did at Coeur d'Alene Summer Theater. Either Mom or Jack or both of them were in it, except for like one. But when I would share a stage with my mom and have a scene, she would be very, she would want to make sure I got all the laughs that I possibly could. She was very supportive. And so we were doing Mame, and I played Gloria Upson. And I had this line that was a series of 3 lines that would build, 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 and then the big laugh. And so I'm on stage with her, and she's listening to me, and I can tell she's enjoying. And I say the first one, ha, 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 ha. And the second one, ha, ha, ha. The third one, big, big laugh. And she holds and she waits till the very last person at the very last stopped laughing. And then she said her line.
And then she delivers the line.
I was
She wants her
waiting,
girl to get
and
it
I'm
all.
waiting, and everybody's done laughing at my baby, and now I will.
And go.
Because it was like people would do that. Actors will cut off your laughter.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
they'll do that. They'll step on your laughs and start, sometimes accidentally because they don't know it's going to get a laugh. Sometimes they do it on purpose, and it's kind of a crappy trick to do. But it was fun doing summer theater. I think I did 9 shows or 10.
You guys did a
maybe.
lot together.
Yeah, we did a lot
Yes.
together.
Mm-hmm.
Best Little Whorehouse in Texas was what brought me up, and my mom assured the director that I could sing. Oh, she's fine.
And
Oh,
I pulled
Hard
it off.
Candy Christmas.
I
the
had to
big
pull-
song, the big song. She sung. She's fine.
Yeah,
She'll be
she's
good.
fine. And I get there like, and they're
And
trying
she
to-
was fine. She did a great job. It was
I
wonderful.
figured it out. But that was the first one, and then back for Mame, and then I got the job with the guys, and then stayed.
Yeah.
So then we've all been here since '98.
Yeah, and I was working with KXLY on a grease project to raise money for the theater. So I knew Dave and Ken not well because I remember when it was ready to do the movie, and these guys come out. And I'm thinking, well, who are they? What are they? What are they doing? I had no idea really of
Breakfast
the
Who?
radio show. And I turned and I said, how long are they going to be doing this to somebody? I forget who it was, Diana or something. And they were wonderful. But we teamed up.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought in Kanicki. We brought a lot of people. And this is
Yeah.
in,
They stayed at the Lutho Hotel, I
yeah.
think, back when the Lutho
when was
open.
that, Molly?
It was before I started. It was probably 97. Yeah.
97. So I knew them. So I set up an appointment for her to meet Diana. And I said,
And that's
because
how I got my
all my
job.
shows were ABC. So she went and started off
Mm-hmm.
as a elf. No, not an elf.
an elf
Producer. Well, no,
Christmas- a
they were
Christmas elf,
They were
right?
out doing
Yeah.
the Christmas elf
Yeah.
thing. Yes. And
So
so, then I
Christmas
just
wish.
and then they wanted me to be their producer, which I did. Do you know what I found? I was looking through old stuff. Do you remember the paper that was here? It was like the Planet, the local Planet, or whatever.
Yes.
I found an article, and it was when I was on Star at 96.9, and it was telling the story of how I started working with the Breakfast Boys. But I'm, 32, I think, or 33 at the time. So it's like this picture, but it's a full article. Like, and me and another Kiki, somebody, she used to be a radio personality here.
Yes.
But anyway, I was telling the story about they wanted me to be the producer. I didn't have any money, so I didn't think I could do that. And they had to explain that that's
can't-
not
I
what
can't,
producers
well,
do in
help you.
radio. It's different. You answer phones, you book guests. That's what producers do in radio. And I just knew about show business. And I brought my headshot to the radio interview. And it was
Yeah.
way before we had webcams or anything. And they were looking at my headshot like, what? Why?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the lovely photo that doesn't really look a whole lot like you anyway. But I was used to the show business
Yeah.
thing,
But then she moved up. It was interesting, her, and then later Tommy came. But we got also very involved because Molly was writing, and I produced one the show with the two
On
1X,
Shaky
on
Ground.
Shaky Ground. I produced that. So we've done things together, and then the Christmas show. Molly was in
Yeah.
4 or 5 or whatever Christmas show. So yeah, we've done a lot together.
Collaborated a lot.
Yeah, and that's fun. I love that. That was a lot of fun. I love producing on Shaky Ground.
Do you guys all live here now? Does Tom live here now too?
Tom
Yes.
does.
So you guys all live here.
Yeah.
Which is so
3 of us, and
fantastic.
Margaret.
Yeah. And Margaret.
And her family, and
Yeah,
then
okay.
Kelly Quinette, that's her son and wife, and all the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren live here.
Yeah.
Do you have kind of a compound over there in Coeur d'Alene?
I guess I
Kind of.
do.
That's
yes.
perfect.
Yeah, but my grandson and his girlfriend Justine, they've been there while they were building a house up above, and it's finished in last week they moved out, and it was odd. They're in a little log house, a little log cabin next to my house, and it was a weird thing. It was another change. When you get to be of a certain age, the consistencies are less, and I go to Macy's and they're closing. That's hard for me.
Yes.
It's one more non-constant thing.
Yes.
And sometimes when someone's like a real pain in the neck, I think, well, at least it's a consistency. You know,
I know what to
there's
expect.
it's consistent. But so many things have changed over the years that are not there anymore, and I'm seeing it get less and less. So I look for consistencies.
What's been the biggest change for you in the industry as a whole? What do you see as the biggest change from when you started to now?
Oh my gosh,
Because you're still
you
working.
can't drop by. You can't. In New York, you made the rounds. You had your pictures, and you went to all the agents and left your picture, hoping that the secretary would like you and she'd show it to somebody. I mean, that was the biggest change. I don't think L.A. was ever like that, but by the time I came to L.A., I was established. I had an agent. I still had to have interviews. Now they do none. Everything is on tape.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching an AI thing, and there's a great way to get in trouble with casting. You send a picture, you send a scene. How do they don't know you. They're just looking at your scene. And you get there and you're awful. But you were very good on that. And there's so
Interesting.
many things
Yeah.
that you can get caught, especially now and it was something where somebody made something into somebody else. I can't think of what it was. And I thought, wow, if this is the trend, you're going to be in big trouble when the reality
Well, and
comes
that
out.
Yeah.
with COVID, that really, I think they really realized that
Yes.
there's no need. The good thing is that it's expanded, and like John and I were talking about this when he was young coming up. There were 5 guys that would be on all the auditions: Eric Estrada, Richard Gere, John, and a couple other people. When my brother was going on auditions, it was Brad Pitt, George Clooney, my brother, that group of people.
Yeah.
Now it's not, it's everybody in the whole world is auditioning. It's open casting. You don't have to move to LA. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to have a computer. I just got a thing for an audition for a movie in Seattle, and they want me to do a video thing, and then they'll fly in whoever. But I think you would be cast without them ever meeting you in person. I think it would all just be video,
Which
like
is
a video audition.
Well, they bring you in if it's a big
this
big
is like an
movie.
industrial,
Yeah.
so there was no part in there that it said this is what we'd pay for this, and this, but it's like, in the big movie, yes, but I think for commercials and all that stuff, it's like,
yeah.
it just is all done over Zoom and video now.
Which is
Yeah.
so interesting because I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, movies and TV shows, a lot of it is based on like chemistry, isn't it?
Well, the minute you open that door to go in that room, that's your audition. You're
Yeah.
there, and a lot of times I remember doing a bit, not meaning to, a chair flipped, and how I did it, I walked, by the time I got home, I'd gotten the part.
You got the part.
Because it was something I did in person.
Right.
So I don't know what the future will be like but if I were up and coming, I mean, I was a
Yeah.
kid, I guess New York, but in order to get an agent, you need to be seen. In order for them to see you, you need to have an agent. I mean, it's crazy.
It's a different world.
Yeah, it's a very different world
Well-
than when I came up.
What is the advice that you would give to somebody who is trying to get into the business now?
I would say, as my husband would say, only do it if you can't not. Make sure that you have the passion. And then you need to get in touch with people that are in the industry now. You can go online, you can find things out about it. But I would just say, go for it. But try to find out anything that you can before you make that move, because you still need to be in LA or Los Angeles. Well, no, not so much.
Well,
I mean, I
the
would say
thing
LA
is
or
nice,
New York.
though, is that you can make your own film. Like my partner and I, Steve, we've made short films, and they've gone through all the film festivals and stuff. And we did it right here in Spokane. So you can make it happen for yourself a little bit more
If
than you used to be able to.
The thing with actors, they do watch things, is that you have to get someone to watch it. You have to get an agent to watch it to take you to have you be a client, because it's that agent's word. But I would say, if I were an agent today, I'd want to see that person. I would never take them over a tape. I'd want to see them and what they were like. And I think when you get to that point, usually, you learn a lot by going there and hanging out with the other young people, which is something missed today. There were places you'd hang out and you'd go and you'd find out what was going on, what was coming up. That doesn't exist anymore, not in New York and not in Los Angeles. So Ella said that. There's nowhere to go to hang,
And I think it's like a lot of the social media, because now everybody just kind of hangs out on social media. So there's no such thing as like real relationships. Or remember, we used to go to the bars and hang out and meet people and
go to coffee,
go to dinner parties at each other's houses.
And you'd find out about open calls.
Right.
And you'd find out and you'd call your agent. And so I really, if I knew someone personally, I could probably make some calls and find out. But I even asked Ella and Edward about it. And they're somewhat established. They do have agents, but it's very, very different.
The Wild Wild West.
It is the Wild Wild West.
It is the Wild Wild West as far as getting things put on platforms and doing things. And it's not at all
influencers.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is like quick scroll and how
Yeah.
quickly you can get information and products. It's all, how quickly you can do that. Okay, so let's do a little something before I let you incredible women go. I want to know how well you know your mom.
Oh, okay.
Because, we're doing this for Mother's Day. So how well does Molly know her mom? What's her favorite color?
Green.
It's pretty fast. Movie? What's her favorite movie?
Pretty Woman.
Favorite food?
Oh, that's a good one. I think a nice slice of pizza, like a good slice of pizza, New York type pizza. I mean, she'll eat sushi, like a nice steak, really good medium rare steak. But I don't know. I think of a slice of pizza or a hot dog, a good hot dog.
Oh, there we go.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, best way to relax. How do you get mom to relax?
Just slap her.
Give her a good whipping.
You slap her hard enough.
Then she'll just settle down and relax.
I'd say that like tonight, or we'll go out to dinner, we'll do stuff. I'd say we sit and have a little bit of a cocktail when we get home and relax. Sometimes spa stuff, but a nice cocktail.
A nice cocktail's nicer. Just I liked it. I like Molly so much. Besides, I love her. She's just an amazing woman. I like her company. And she does know me probably better than anybody. And so it was an open flow of conversation.
I was just going to ask you, what is the one thing that you want your kids to know? How do you feel about them?
Oh,
do you have a couple hours? Write it down.
I love my children. They're really everything to me. And I love my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. My children are two great human beings. And
why do you do that? Now you're making me
Molly, Molly is exceptional. Exceptional. I just think she's monumentally exceptional. I just think she's a fine woman in all areas of her life.
You make me cry.
Yeah.
I love to hear moms talk about their kids.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Great everything.
Yeah, you did good, Mama.
Thank you.
You did good.
Thank you.
And you got a great mama.
Oh, I know it. I know it. She's going to buy us dinner tonight. She told me.
She always
we were
brings
talking
her
about going to-
pocketbook. She's
We're
a
going
good
to
mother.
go visit Ken and Trish, Ken Hopkins and Trish in
Aw.
Hawaii. And she goes, well, maybe you should take me instead of Ken. I'm good for a few dinners out and I'll buy you treats while I'm there.
Perfect.
It'll be a lot lot cheaper for you if I go with you.
Did you say sold?
Gotcha.
Ken's a little disappointed.
You have to split everything with him. I just got it covered.
Oh, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. And just,
It was a pleasure. Boy, it went fast.
it goes fast.
Mhm.
It goes fast when you're talking to incredible people who have incredible things to say, who have done incredible things. Thank you.
Thank you, and you continued success.
Thank you. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I'm teary. Look what you've done. Go make the rest of your days the best of your days.